Hello, hello. So start with yourself a black canvas. I just painted mine black. So it's just white paper to start with. And now it's black. And then I'm adding a little bit of white while it's still wet. Actually with a piece of paper towel. So I got my black, I got my white. I'm just kind of dipping it in black and white. That's what it looks like on my towel. And then I'm going to blot it down. And pounce, pounce, pounce away. Now you could add a little blue to it if you want it to be like a dark starry night. If you don't want it to be a solid black, you do it with a dark blue. Sorry about the camera bouncing there too. So I'm just taking it all the way around, pouncing, pouncing, pouncing. The whole thing is covered with black paint first. It was wet. I did that before you got on because I didn't want you to have to sit and wait for things to dry with me. I'm just going to throw this away now. And it fell out of my garbage can onto my floor. Of course it did. Alright, there we go. So I'll wait for you to catch up. Normally I would dry this and have you fast forward about 30 seconds, but instead I'm going to give you a little tidbit on me. So my name is Jennifer. I'm with A Glass of Art and More. I'm formerly an art teacher. I'm still an art teacher. I'll always be an art teacher in public schools. Last year was my last year in the schools in public. So I decided to pursue this full time. And I have bigger plans for the future because if you're Christian, God told me that. If you're not, you might think I'm nuts, but that's okay. I know what I believe, and you can believe what you want to believe. But I believe that I'm got some bigger things planned for me with God's help. So that's what I'm going to be pursuing in the future here. But in the meantime, just to thank everyone who has been supporting me over the last few years, and especially over this last summer, since last, like I said, school year was my last year. It's kind of a shock. It wasn't expected. Budget cuts and all. But, and then a personal choice. I was offered a full-time job, but I decided not to take it because I wanted to pursue what God has planned for me. So, in doing so, I have been asking my followers if they wouldn't mind sharing my posts or sharing my page with their friends and family. And obviously, the more you guys comment on my pages and the more you share content, the bigger my followers get. I do offer workshops spring through fall in my studio garage. In the wintertime, it typically goes back to my garage. It's still mostly studio now because I've been really lazy and haven't gotten out here to clean it up the rest of the way, and because the snow really hasn't been sticking much, I'm not too concerned with it yet, but I know my husband will get very anxious pretty soon if I don't get it cleaned up, because he doesn't want to have to scrape his car at 4 in the morning when he has to go to work. Well, 5:30, but he's up at 4 to go to work. So he works up in Sun Prairie as a paramedic, and I do this. So again, to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting me and us and this venture and my kids and whatnot. We decided during the Christmas vacation, the students were out, all the kids were out of school, that we would do some paint and sips every day. I would do them. I say we because it's a family thing and it's God thing for me. So that's why I say we all the time. That I would offer these online videos for people for free. So you had something to do over break in case it was cold and yucky inside and you didn't have a chance to get out. This year, wow, 52 degrees on Christmas or something like that. So there was really no reason to stay inside. But the kids also couldn't go out and play in the snow and stuff too, and they might have gotten bored just around the house. And you yourselves might get bored around the house. So you can watch these. They do get saved on Facebook here, my Facebook Lives. So you can watch them at any time and paint them. You can take them, you know, have a girls' night, bring your friends over to your house, put a potluck together or whatever, and follow one of my videos if you choose to. I'm totally fine with that. I also have some videos on YouTube as well. Not as many that I have on Facebook. I haven't been able to download my videos from Facebook to upload them to YouTube. And because I like doing the live, and I can't do live on YouTube yet because I don't have enough followers, I prefer doing them here. That way, if you guys have questions, you can throw them up in the comments, and then I can look at them and answer them as we go along. So, because I use glossy paints when I paint, and my paint is nothing fancy or nothing special, it's just the Apple Barrel, I thought it was Apple Barn, but Apple Barrel paints. It's by Plaid. It's a very liquidy, medium-bodied paint. It's not an expensive paint. It's not like top-of-the-line, woohoo type paint. But it's a great crafter's paint. It's a great for beginners. Most of the colors cover really well. Some of them are a little bit more translucent, and you have to add a few more coats. But they're good for just starting out, and you can find them anywhere. You can get them at Walmart and most craft supply stores. Artist Loft is another good one you can get into if you want, for beginners. Then you can start going up in there and get in higher quality paints. And of course, you'll notice a difference once you get into painting more and using those higher quality paints. It just covers better. The colors mix and blend better because you're having more pure pigments. So keep that in mind. I like to do a wet on wet technique. So typically my paint is wet while I'm doing the next step, but there are times where we have to wait for it to dry, which is like now. So I'm gonna hit it's still a little bit wet, I'm gonna hit it with the hairdryer. So go ahead and fast forward like 20 seconds, two 10 push buttons or whatever. Alright, there's my 10 seconds. So, black background, then I took a piece of paper towel, added some white to it while the background was wet. Also had a little black on my paper towel, pounced to get this kind of textured, fun background. You can do it with some blue in there too if you wanted it to be kind of more blue in there. The original image that we're looking at is done with colored pencils, not with paint, but you know, we can do it with paint anyway. So, my next step is I want to figure out where I'm going to be putting my branches. I don't know if I wrote down brown for one of the colors. I sure hope I did. If I didn't, I hope you noticed that, yeah, the branches are brown. So you needed brown. But if you didn't grab it, that's okay. I have a nutmeg here. I'm not going to need a lot. I gave it a shake before I put it down. That's probably more than enough. Always shake your paints. Doesn't matter if you buy them brand new, like this one's pretty new. You'll end up with the separation from the pigment and the medium, and the cheaper paints happens more often. And you'll also find chunks in it sometimes because acrylic paint is just a plastic basically. So you can just pick those little, we'll call them paint boogers, out of your paint and move on. I have to be very careful. I have something very unusual here today. We had New Year's Eve. That's why I wasn't on here at 11. So my husband made a virgin sangria, which is basically just fruit juice, like a lot of different fruit juices, right? A sparkling something and whatever. And I'm trying really hard not to put my paintbrush in it. So I have my purple paint cup so that I don't intermix them, but it's there. It's handy. It's like, oh, look, a cup. Let me throw my brush in there. All right. Make sure that one's cleaned out because it was a little stiff. I have my 1/4 inch round brush here. Sorry, square, flat. I'm going to dip into my brown paint. Remember, I'm a righty here, so I'm going to have to tip my canvas slightly. All right, so if I'm looking at an 8x10 canvas, which some people ask me what size to go, 8x10 is nice. You can get it done in an hour or less, and then you can be free to do other things. If you're doing a 16x20, it might take you 2.5 hours to complete this because it's a bigger surface area, you have to cover more paint. If you're using a stretch canvas, please, 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 by everything holy, paint your edges. Don't leave your edges bare. Oh, don't do that. It just looks so unfinished on your wall, and then you're so unhappy with it. So paint your edges while you're painting it. Okay, at least to black, even if you're not going to put the green and other colors on there. All right, so my canvas is 10 inches long, but it's only 6 inches wide, so my bird's going to look a little different than your bird. But the top branch is about 2 inches down from the top. So if I was to divide my canvas, whatever size yours is, in half, okay, and then divide the top half again visually, that's where my branch is going to start. And I'm just going to go up and off to that corner, and I don't care right now that it's just a plain straight line. I just want to get that visual on there right now so you can see what we're looking at. It's a 1/4 inch branch. It's a 1/4 inch brush. Then you can come back with your brush and you can have a little fun. You can do, you know, shaky, shaky hand. And, you know, like we got some branches that were like knobs and coming off, and a little gnarly thing going on there. You don't have to go crazy with that. Oops, see, there's one of those goobers. There we go. And then just off the edge there. Now, you notice the black underneath is going to leave the paint, you know, you're going to see it coming through, which is going to be fine and dandy, especially for this bottom side, because we want that bottom side to be shadowed or shaded anyway, because the bottom of the branch wouldn't have any light source to it, so it's going to be darker, right? So leaving that like that would be fine. But the top of the branch on the original drawing here has like a white line that's supposed to indicate the snow. So we'll put that on after the paint has dried a little bit. Now, if you want to have a bigger variation between the dark brown for like that shadow and the top of half of the branch is the lighter brown, which would be like the highlight, not the snow, then you can add a little bit of white to the top half into the brown to make more of a tan. Or you can add a little bit of the black to the brown to make the bottom half a little bit darker. But be careful against the black that it doesn't get so dark that you lose it completely. All right, so there's the top branch going on to the bottom branch. The bottom branch is only about 1 inch off the bottom here. All right, so 1 inch is roughly, you know, our knuckle space here, or here they say, or, you know, like the top part of your thumb, unless you got super long fingers because you're a pianist or something. Here's a ruler if you want to get it out and do that. I'm going to eyeball it. So this time, dipping into my brown, here's my my branch. I'm going to bring it down a little wiggles in there, and across, because he's got to have something to stand on, right? And then I'm going to bring it up to about 2 to 2.5 inches over here on the side, so as it wiggles across, and then I'm going to start making him kind of wiggle on up, so like the branch is kind of hooking up, because not all branches are square and flat and straight and whatever. So just a little wonky there with your branches. Now, if you have a larger canvas, you're going to need a larger brush than a 1/4 inch like this is. If you have a 16 by 20, I would do it with a 1 inch brush, which is like this guy. See the difference there? All right, and then you would do like the whole stroke with a bigger brush. But if you're sticking to a smaller canvas like I am, then you can go with a smaller brush, just so things are proportional. All right, typically, you know me, I like to do everything that's in the foreground last, and the branches are kind of in the foreground, at least down here, but the one up there is in the background. But it's like, yeah, hey, don't worry about it. Let's get those in there so we can see where they're actually at. Your little ornaments that are on the tree are kind of in the background. You've got the green pine needles that are kind of in the background, so we'll probably do pine needles next, at least the top ones up here. This one here we're going to wait for, because we're going to do the round balls first. You could call them ornaments, or you could call them berries. You know, I don't know a pine tree that has needles that has berries, so I call them ornaments. but they could definitely be berries. And then the white dots with the kind of misty orb that goes around it, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of neat. Anyway, oh, I almost put my paint in my drink cup again. All right. Remember, when I clean out my brush, I run it down to the bottom. Down here, I bang it off, and then I dry it off on my paper towel. And then I lay it flat. If you have a lot of paintbrushes and you're just going to keep changing between paintbrushes, then you can go ahead and leave it in your paint cup for a little bit longer for water. You'll probably want to change out your water cup more frequently. All right, let's go and add some green to my plate. I have, oh look, this one's not covered. This one's called Christmas Green. The last time I had the green paint out, the whole thing was covered because I refill them, so it was just covered in paint. All right, there's some green from my bristles. I'm going to still use the same brush. All right. Instead of brushing with my paintbrush flat, I'm going to stand it on the end and paint with it in the other direction. So coming from the corner up here, I'm just going to start putting some streaks in here and filling this in. And it's going to be very close together and very just solid up there. And as you come through, be careful how much pressure you're putting on your bristles so that you can make that thinner pine needle look. If you don't like using the square brushes, then don't use the square brush. Use your round ones. I'll show you what it looks like with the round. This one is, I'm going to say a 1, maybe a 2. Oh, that's not where it was at. You might not cover with paint, so I can't tell you. Oh, it's a 2. There it is. Found it. Size 2. I'm going to add a little bit of white to my green. Now remember, whenever I mix paints, I'm grabbing some from here, and I'm grabbing just the corner here. I can go back and forth until I get the right color green. I like that color green. It's going to go on top. So now you can continue to use your flat brush, or you can switch to this. I like to paint with both so you guys can see the difference of the strokes. And they can really be done in either way. So I'm just going to light pressure and a lighter green on top. You kind of pick it up off the canvas. So I'm going to turn it. You can turn your canvas. You don't have to paint in the same direction. All right. So some lighter strokes in there. All right. If you wanted to have some even lighter yet, I would do a couple, not a lot, but I would add a little bit more white to my brush. And then you could add a couple really bright ones in there too, if you like. Just give some more dimension to your painting. All right, so that's what you're going to do in all the areas where the green is. So there's our first one. I'm going to flip it back right side up for you. So don't feel like you have to be stuck painting with a painting going just up and down, or the orientation can't move. You can move it. So if you draw a straight line better from left to right, like you're writing, if you're a right-handed person, well, if you're left-handed, you're still writing in the same direction, but your hands are going over it. Then you can go ahead and turn your paper, your canvas, your wood, whatever you happen to be painting on, in whatever direction is comfortable to get the line the way you want it. And then too, your paint brushes, remember, if you're washing the round ones out, rinse them, then take your fingers and just put them back in the right shape so it keeps your bristles together and they don't go crazy on you. All right, I'm going to go back to my flat brush because that's what I like to use. I don't mind the round ones. Doesn't bother me at all, but... All right, dipping in my green, my dark green. I'm going to do some coming in this way underneath the branch. Just a smaller bunch of them. And then there's some down here. I think I put my arm, I put my arm in the paint right there. Okay. I got a couple little twigs coming up this way. We have another bunch coming over here. And then we have a bunch that comes down here. Oh, need more paint. And then there's one coming from a branch that's below it somehow. It's off our canvas that we don't see. So it's coming up in this direction. Now the only green that's on our picture that we didn't do is this corner up here, because like I said, I wanted to do the berries or the red balls there first, and then I'll put the green back in. So I'm going to hit this with a lighter green again. I'm going to switch brushes again because, you know, since I did with the other one, I want it to be consistent with my strokes. My paint is still really, really wet right through here, so I have to add a little bit more of that lighter color more often to my brush. Okay. We'll go in and do the other details on, like I said, the branches and whatever later. I'm going to go ahead and get some red on my plate because berries and cardinals, that's what's coming up next. Cleaning out my brush. It's just bright red. Alrighty. Whew, got cold out here. A little bit colder out today. It's chilly when my heater turned off there. Oh, this brush has seen some better days. I'm going to use that one. Go back with the one that I was painting the green with. I'm going to have to get that green out. If I mix the red and green together, I'm going to get kind of an ugly brown. So I want to kind of get that out of the paintbrush before I use it again. All right, so again, I've shown you how to do the balls before, the circles before. You're going to hold your paintbrush down and then you're going to just spin. Like that. Right? I'm going to do two more. Dip my paintbrush in. I'll do one overlapping slightly. Because really it's behind the branch, but I can paint the branch back in. There's that guy. We'll do the other one over here so it fits on my canvas. Because remember, mine's a little bit more narrow than your guys' canvas. So my balls are going to look a lot closer to the Cardinal than yours. Decided to make this guy a little bigger. There we go. All right, before I do any more, I'm going to hit mine with a hairdryer. forgot the light green on this one over here. No one mentioned that. No one said, hey, Jen, don't forget the other one. All right, I'm grabbing my paintbrush. A little bit of white because the green dried by me hitting with it. I finished doing this side over here. Lighter green. There we have it. All right, I still see some wet down here in this one branch because the paint's kind of heavy, so I'm just going to take my finger and just kind of smooth it out just to get rid of that brown. Clean my finger off. There's still some wet up through here too. That would interfere with my bird, so I just want to make sure that gets kind of hit. All right, now the bird is taking up the majority of this picture. Because it's, you know, like we're zooming in, we're looking, you know, at the bird. So his head comes up here, his beak is like here. Now, in the image, like here's half of my canvas. So if you're looking at an 8x10 and you're using half of your canvas, the bird is actually bigger than half. So it comes over past the middle point. So keep that in mind as you're painting. Or you'll have a smaller bird and he might be misshapen or misformed or wonky, and you can fix them as you go along. So my brush, we got his tail down here. That's it. Just boom, little triangle down there. And then I'm going to fill it in. That's his tail. This part is going to be his back. So it's going to come off the canvas here. Then I kind of curve up because now we're going to get into like his head. He's actually going to be a little bit taller. There we go. That's his back. It's just slightly curved. Now his head is coming in here, so it's kind of rounded here. His crown is coming up this way. And then it curves down like that. So this is kind of where his head's. Don't worry, we'll fix all this later, but that's kind of what we're looking at now. His beak is going to come out. It's not going to be red, but it's going to come out. Now remember, cardinals have a really wide beak. It's short, but it's wide. All right, then the black comes down through here, and then his belly comes out. And it's a pretty sharp turn back there towards his tail. Now, you want this curve here to match up with his tail down here a bit. So I'm going to have to bring mine out a little bit more. I'm going to switch to a bigger brush because that's going to take me forever. I don't like taking forever. Alright, so I get like a 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch brush. I don't know what it is. Number on it, if anyone wants a number. Don't know. It's not numbered. Probably a 6. That's usually a round one, so I'm not sure what this is numbered. Okay, so I'm going to try to paint in the same direction that the feathers are going to be falling, because we like to see it look like feathers. Remember, his arm is going to be in here somewhere too. His arm, his wing. You know what I mean, his wing. I have a lot of people love painting cardinals this time of the year. It reminds them of their loved ones. There is that old wives' tale saying that when you see the cardinal, the loved ones are present. It's a nice sentiment. I like it. My grandmother absolutely loved cardinals. So every time I see one, I think of her. Just like I'm sure when you guys see the Cardinals, if for your loved ones, you think of them. Now, I didn't have to paint that red. I could have left it black because I didn't know what's black on there. But I can paint it black again. So I'm not worried about it right now as to where the color's going to go. I'm just filling in my bird. I kind of just like the one coat so we can still see some of that black undercoat from the canvas showing through. All right, so now I have him colored in. As you can see down here, where it's dry, it's a lot darker than it is up here. So in order to make some of that brighter, we're just going to add more coats of red in some of those highlight areas. And we're also going to add a little bit of white, which I hate adding white to red because it ends up looking like pink. Well, so if you really don't want to do the white and the red to make it pink, you can add a little bit of yellow and make it orange. As long as it's lighter than the red, so it looks like a highlight, that would work. I'm just going to go ahead and do the white because that's what's on the image and it just looks so darn cute. Okay, I'm going to take a smaller brush. Again, let me see what I got there. That's not that one, not that one. Those are all dirty. What did I do with all my brushes? Good Lord. They're looking pretty shabby. All right, I'm going to come back in with some black. And below his beak, I'm just going to do some small strokes. Kind of go into his belly there. I'm going to actually outline where his beak would be here with the black. So look, I'm making a giant diamond. That's the back. And his lip, where it opens, would be right there. Okay, I'm going to go back in, and this is going to go, so I don't really want to draw a line because then it's going to show up on it. So if you just keep doing this all the way, but I'm going to do it so you can see it, and then I'm going to show you how to paint it away, kind of. I'm going to go a little bit higher than where my is now. So it's going to be like this, and then it's going to come up here and around and then down to his nose again, and it goes above the nose. Like I said, I'm making it a little smaller than what I really want because I want to be able to bring that out past that line so that line disappears. I don't want to see that line. I'm not going to stop at that line. And I'm going to have kind of random sizes. And I'm going to always start towards the beak and work my way out because as I go out, the paint is coming off my brush. So I'm getting more of that dry brush look. So if you feel like you have too much paint, go like this in a few places and then bring it just past that line. That'll kind of give you a little bit less paint in your brush and make it look a little more feathered and a little less solid. So continue to go in the direction away from his beak, but it's kind of like a bike spoke, right? It's kind of going around. It doesn't just keep going down. It's switching up. Now it's going out this way. And then it kind of starts going up a little too. You can try bringing some in from the other direction so like you can have some fine strokes coming in this way. If that works better for you, then do it that way. I like flicking it this way. It just works better for me. When I re-dip, I'm just dipping in the tip. That's all I need. Just the tip. That's all we need. Just kidding. Anyway, don't go there. It's a clean channel. All right. It's still kind of flaring back this way though. I don't want it to get too, it's sticking up, but it's, yeah. There we go. Finish that in. This side here should be pretty solid. If your paint is still wet, grab a little bit of white on the tip, add a little bit of black to it, a little white, a little black, come back through, add some of those little highlight, just like we did with the branches. Just add a little bit of depth and dimension, adding the white and the black. And if they kind of disappear, as you can see, it's kind of just becoming all gray on me. Redip the white. Some of the area here is a lot wetter than some of the other areas. So redip in my white. I don't want it too white, but I don't want it... All right, so I am going to take the white so you can see this on the outside of his eye. Now his eye is, it's above the center of his mouth here. So it's up here. It's not in the center. And it's a pretty good size circle. If you had a big old paintbrush... This guy, he's a pretty big handle. What's this one? It's a smaller. I have one of my paintbrushes here has a really big handle. So like if I was to dip it in white so you could see what this looks like, we're looking about that size, a little bit bigger, but in black. All right, it actually has some gray around it, black around it, and then the white little dot for the highlight. It's so that you can see the eyeball instead of just black. We want to be able to see the eyeball. This is a little wet for me, so let me get my paintbrush cleaned out real quick and dried off. All right, I'm going to take this. I'm going to spread it out a little because, like I said, I wanted it a little bit wider, a little bit bigger than what it was. There we go. As I'm doing this, you can see because my paintbrush has got some black on it and the paint is still wet, it's making that gray color that I was talking about on the outside of my eye. I'm going to put my canvas, my paintbrush on my palette, and I'm going to twist it back to a point. Or I'm going to grab a different brush here in a minute because I want some fine detail in here. So if you have a smaller detail brush, you might want to use that. I'm just going to keep switching. That one's seen better days. All right, there we go. I am going around. I'm going to keep making that, swirling that around. Nice and big. Nice dark gray. I'm going to have to dry some of this off. Otherwise, it's just going to keep moving the gray around. And I need some of it to be black. Nice big round circle there for his eyeball. It has to be proportional to... I mean, it's a little bit bigger than what his eye would be, because that's why he's so cute. We think it's cute when they've got those big, ginormous eyes. Okay, I'm going to take this to the outside again. Bring some of my things off of it. Some of that gray that I just made up will look really nice intermixed here. With some of the highlight colors. Use whichever you mix, because it ends up making everything look better. All right, a little bit more here. Bring it down this way a little. So the underneath part, about halfway up his eye and about halfway under his eye, make a little line, but leave a little black in there if you can. Ooh, almost put that in my drink again. On my juice, my jungle juice, my New Year's juice. Cranberry and what else was in there? Sparkling grape juice, cranberry juice, and apple juice. It's good, whatever it is. My husband just kind of, like I said, kind of like a A virgin sangria. I'm going to hit the eyeball with my hair dryer. Fast forward 20 seconds. Just didn't time at that time, so I'm not sure if I was at 20 seconds or not. Okay, I'm going to bring my paintbrush in the black. And now I need to put the black back in. So, nice big circle. Remember, I'm leaving some of that gray around the outside. This is his pupil. I'm going to do a little bit in between that highlight. There we go. Just to define that a little bit. And then there's a little white dot, which I don't want to do right now, because if I did it right now, it's going to end up being gray or muddied or whatever. So, rinse off my brush to leave it nice and neat. If you have orange, you can do the beak orange. I'm going to use my brown over top my red and see how that looks. If I decide to add some orange to it later, I will. But it, to me, looked very much the same as the branch colors when it was done. So I'm just going to paint that brown, leaving that line kind of showing up there. So my youngest son is working tonight. He's over at the Duck Inn. He'll be 20 in May, so he's not a baby anymore by any means. But he is still my youngest son. He'll forever be my little man. I'm going to bring the top out just a smidge longer than the bottom. I think they're really pretty much the same size. But now I'm going to add a little bit of white to my brown. Remember, on the side, I'm creating another pile over here, so I'm grabbing some of that white. I'm just going to mix a little because I don't want it too light. I just want a little highlight color. While this is still wet, we're going to bring that lighter color in here as a highlight. Just a smidge down here, just a little. I'll probably go in with some more layers here soon. Like I said, I might have to get some orange to make that stand out. Because I have that lighter color on my brush, I'm going to hit my branches up here a bit. And cover up some of that. I'm going to be bringing the strokes down over the top of my branch like that. I'm not going in a line. I'm not, making a solid, but I'm just trying to hit some of that highlight in there. And yeah, I went over my pine needles. You can leave the pine needles showing on the top, or you can cover them up and have them on the bottom. All right, coming through here. Really should turn my heater on. It is super cold out here right now. The wind is whipping off the lake, so that's kind of causing a lot of my issues today. We had some of that sleet snow mixture out here this morning, and then it was snow, and it was really slippery, so I put salt down right away. My friends wouldn't slip and hurt themselves. And because I did the other day, I slipped on my steps coming down. My husband's like, oh, that's my fault. I'm like, it wasn't really your fault, but if you want to take the blame, sure. He was inside doing whatever, and he didn't salt the steps. So when I took a step, it just went whoop, landed on my bum. Got a lot of cushion there, so. But I have a few bruises, but I'm okay. Won't be the last time I fall and bang something up, I'm sure. Not that I want to put that in the universe, but it is what it is. All right, mixing up a little bit more of that light brown because I ran out. I'm going to do the bottom branch down here too. I need a little bit more red down here. His belly doesn't quite kind of go quite like that. It goes this way a bit more, but we'll do that in a minute. I'm looking at my original picture there, and I'm looking at my current picture. And I like the reference pictures. I like to go back and forth from one image to the next, and kind of, sometimes I do that too much though, and I start putzing with it too much. It doesn't have to be exact, but I like to kind of make it a little bit closer to what it was. All right, and as that dries, it'll get darker. It'll soak into the black and the brown that's underneath it. Some of it'll stay light. That's okay. All right, I gotta grab one of my paintbrushes again here for that red. I have one that I did not clean out very well. I think it's this one. Maybe it's this one. One of them was red. I'm going to throw it back in the cup anyway. Okay. Grab some more of that red paint in my brush. I'm going to just bring it down this way a bit. There we go. Nice fat belly. Nice and chunky. I think it made his eye a little too low. I think it should have been a little higher. Oh well. See, like I said, I can sit and nitpick all day long. All right, back of a paintbrush because it's small, dipping it in the white if I find a pile of it somewhere. Where's my white? There we go. Putting my highlight in. Boom. His eye's done. Brr. All right, I want to add some more of the reds because I want to lighten it up. I want to be able to see where the different feathers and bird and whatever else is there. I might need to add more black too now that I'm looking at it. Boy, see? Comparing, compare. I said red, so we'll do red. All right, so here's the wing. I'm going to go ahead and paint that wing, that edge back in. And I'm going to kind of flip it on down. I flick it and kind of lift up a little bit, kind of gives it more of that wispy, like the strokes of my colored pencils. Do the same around the rest of his body here. Just bring on some of those lighter strokes. And I'm still kind of like flicking it a little bit towards the end just to kind of get a little bit more furry, like he's puffed himself up to stay warm. Because they do that, you know. Birds puff themselves up to stay warm. Get this out here. Like I said, he needs some more black there, so I'm just going to make that a little wider. Flicking it back up underneath that black too a little bit. Again, just so it breaks it up a little. Don't get too close to the wing because you want that dark still showing through. Because that's going to look like a shadow without actually having to paint that in there. I dip into the white, like I said, even though I'm not really crazy about putting the white on there. Blend it in. So I dipped into the white, just kind of do one of those things. I'm blending it in my paintbrush. I'm not actually adding any more red to it, but the red in my paintbrush is there. So then I'm going to go ahead and hit those white areas. I might need to come in and get some more white because it's kind of not enough. There we go. Too much red, or white rather. So I'm going to go back into the red and pounce that out a little bit. There we go. Back into my red. Like I said, sometimes it gets a little too white and pink, and I don't want it that much. There we go. I need some lighter highlights coming down through his wing a little bit there. Going back into my red again. Just trying to brighten him up without making him too white. Oops, I got a little black on my brush that time. Which, okay, I'm going to rinse out my brush real quick. And dry it off. Grab some black. And bring this down a bit more. And go into that gray white color here. This is still wet, so it should blend. There we go. going to add a little bit of white to that lighter brown that I had mixed up to make it an even lighter brown. Mostly white, but just a smidgen of that brown. Let's do a highlight on the top of his nose here. I'm going to dip back into the brown because it's getting a little... There we go. And dip into the black again, just to get this line put back in there. Back into my orange, or sorry, my brown. I didn't have orange at all. There we go. Isn't he adorable? I'm going to bring some black up a little higher in some of these areas around his crown. I still think his eye was a little too low for my liking, but that's okay. Should have been up here a little bit. Not quite that high, but up there a little bit more. All right, I'm going to start the brush, dry it off. The really, really dirty water right now. I have some green to still put in up here in front of my berries. I could go in and make some of the berries a little bit brighter towards the center so they stay kind of darker on the edges, but the way I painted them, they're kind of brighter on the edges, so we'll see. I'll grab a little more of that red and just kind of stick more towards the center and give it a second coat of the red towards the center. See a little less of the brush stroke and a little bit more of the solid berry color. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle either. You can leave some a little bit brighter and some a little bit less bright. All right, I'm gonna have to try to find another yucky brush here because it's cold. Bristles. And this guy up here might make a mess with my red, but we'll see. Covered it up a little bit more than I intended to, but that's okay. Going with my round brush again, because that's how I did all the rest of them, with that lighter green. Gotta turn my canvas here. Try to hold on to this without getting my nail all full of paint. All right, there we go with that last green little shrub there. You can put some highlights in the berries because there was in the original. So I'm going to go with kind of that pink that I had there. If it's still wet, if not, I'll mix it up a little. Add a little bit of white to my red over here. Not a lot. We're going to add that to a berry. Just plop down and lift up. This one too. This one was kind of underneath. I lost it, so we'll just kind of plop it there. Come in with some plain white. Let's do a dot. Let's do a dot. And let's do a dot. All right, now the little snowflakes or the snow that's on the branches. If you have a very fine detail brush, this is the time to break it out. or you can use a paint pen later if you'd like. I'm just going to kind of try to follow my wonky branch. He has feet. I didn't put him in there. Not yet. I'm going to go ahead and paint this underneath because the snow is not over top of his feet. So you can go ahead and put that light line. And now if you wanted it to be more snow on there, you can start bringing some down like we did with the light brown. Now we have little areas here, a little snow. I like to use the back of my paintbrush. So I always find whatever paintbrush I have that's kind of the smallest handle. It happens to be my 1/4 inch. I'm gonna put a little more paint white on my palette because it's kind of spread too thin and I can't quite get a good blob. So just adding a little more paint to my palette. Dip in my brush and I'm just gonna put some dot, one up there, one over here, one back here, one on his arm, one down on his belly, another one on a wing, one down here, one over here. Now, if you have a very dry brush that happens to be round, okay, you can dip into the paint, dip into your white, wipe it almost all off, and then try to go around there. It could be a little wet if you want, like a watered down white a little bit. We're going around those dots to give it that halo look. So with a dry brush, there's hardly any paint on my round brush here. You have to make sure the rest of your painting is dry before you can do this, or you're going to end up mixing your colors. I'm going to go back in my paint because I'm almost done. I'm going to wipe it off again. Draw around this guy. I'm going to move my canvas around so my hand doesn't get into the wet paint. That's why I flip it around sometimes. I don't want it to be wet. You might need to do it more than once, because again, on that black, it's going to kind of blend in. But that's okay, because we only want it to look like a halo around it anyway. So there you have it. You can go ahead and touch up the white on the branch again if you feel like too much of it has kind of sunk into the black background. You can take a liner brush and hit it again, another layer on the top, so that it's a little brighter white. I almost forgot his feet, y'all. I got white on my tip, but I'm going to dip into the black. I'm going to go ahead and do that so it's kind of a little gray with the white. And I'm going to come back a little bit. So we have to hook them around. It can't just be like parentheses. You got to have it hook around the branch a little, and then you can do a little white highlight on there if you want. Again, while it's still wet, it's going to turn gray. Your paints are going to mix on your canvas. There you got his little feet. Alright, so there we have it. I can bring my camera down and you guys can take a look at it close up. I hope you enjoy painting the Cardinal. I hope it brings a lot of memories of your loved ones. Again, I always sign it down on the bottom right, but you could, if you wanted to, like sign it on the branch or in his tail or somewhere. Nice. And there it is. Let's put it next to the computer so you can see what it looks like. Right now I can see them both side by side because, you know, my computer's right there. Back this way. Aha, there we go. Well, up maybe, over. Meh, too much shine on it, but there you have it. A side by side. Alright, so my palette will dry and then I'll peel it off again and use it again because I use plastic. It works great. We have our lovely painting here of our Cardinal. I know everyone loves Cardinals, so I really hope you enjoyed painting this. Give it a share. Share it with your friends. Like I said, you can watch the video. You can pause it. You can rewind it. If you want a bigger canvas, you can do it on a much bigger canvas. This one that I'm painting on is like roughly a 6 by 10 piece of paper in my art journal here. This is the one that's on there from the day before. And we had the Highland Cow, and we did the Starry Night inspired, and we did the Jeep and the gnomes. So they're all on Facebook here. You can watch every single one of the tutorials you want and paint away your little heart's desire. All right, y'all. Have a very safe and happy New Year. I had my noon year already, so I get to go to bed early. All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Have a good New Year. Bye.